So if any of you know of coworkers or colleagues that weren't able to attend this, we will be posting this on the MCCEI YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure after the fact, and also to be able to refer to anything that we've discussed. All right. I say we'll give it one more minute and then we will get started because we all know we have busy days ahead of us. All right, let's get started and then we'll catch up anybody else that comes in late. So thank you all so much for joining us. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Jennifer Dweese. I am actually here representing all three organizations that are listed on this slide. I'm the president of the Maryland Center for Construction Education and Innovation. We are a nonprofit workforce intermediary whose mission is to get a diverse population into careers in the built environment, specifically the construction industry. I'm also a co-founder and the construction lead of the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector. We are an initiative funded by the Maryland Works Grant with the Maryland State Department of Education to help increase registered youth apprenticeship totals in the state of Maryland. And the good news is that construction, we are a little ahead of the curve when it comes to utilizing apprenticeships in Maryland. So we're really excited to talk to you guys today about the opportunities. And finally, I am the chairperson this year for the Maryland Workforce Alliance. And we are a group of unions and trade associations, again, with the same mission of improving our workforce here in the state of Maryland, and specifically related to CTE instruction and helping Maryland reach our blueprint goals as well. Cosette?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cosette Conrad. I'm the Director of Education at MCCEI along with Jen. I am also on the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector, or MAC, you might hear us say, team, and I am the construction specialist there as well. So I oversee all of MCCEI's education initiatives and am jazzed about apprenticeships and excited to hear more from our presenters, our guest speakers here, who we will allow to introduce themselves a little bit later. But as a little bit of a teaser, we've got Thomas Cheney and Lauren Martin from Seaside Plumbing, who have a really interesting, robust apprenticeship program, as well as we've got Grant Schmelzer from IEC Chesapeake, who has some really impressive statistics to share with us.
Yep, so we talked a little bit about MAC and Maryland Workforce Alliance. This is actually the first of a series of industry-focused events aimed towards employers. So we started off with construction, but we have a whole about 6 months worth of events coming up. Actually, at the end of this month, on February 22nd, there is a healthcare focused apprenticeship for those on the lower shore as well. All right, so you'll hear, we already threw a few acronyms at you. We've got MAC with the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector. We have MSDE, which is the Maryland State Department of Education. But then when we're talking about apprenticeships, there are other things that we might be talking about. So CTE, that's Career and Technical Education. That is instructions given in high school in the state of Maryland in public school, in which the students are learning some kind of curriculum around a career. So for construction, we have construction management CTE programs, as well as skilled trades. And then with registered apprenticeship, that is an adult level apprenticeship that's registered with the state of Maryland and usually has some. So for example, on us, we have the IEC Chesapeake. They have an adult registered apprenticeship. Youth apprenticeship, that is known as Apprenticeship Maryland as well. Those are apprenticeships that only exist in high school. There's related instruction that can be given either through a partner like a community college or IEC Chesapeake, or some kind of third-party vendor, or also the local education agency, the school can create that instruction as well. And there is a mandatory minimum of 450 hours of work. Seaside Plumbing has a youth apprenticeship, and there are actually quite a few employers, construction employers in the state of Maryland also have youth apprenticeships. And then we have the STA option. STA, School to Apprenticeship, that is starting your registered apprenticeship while you're in high school. So whoever the sponsor is of the apprenticeship, the group non-joint or the union, carves out some of that adult registered apprenticeship and says, this portion can be completed while you're still in high school. You will have a job and it will count towards your full registered apprenticeship. We've already thrown LEA at you a little bit. That is the local education agency. And those are basically school districts. In the state of Maryland, we have 24 of them. It's 23 counties plus the city of Baltimore. And then finally, one thing that I did want to let you guys all know is that there is a proposal right now by the U.S. Department of Labor in which there will be finally recognized youth apprenticeship. It is called a CTE apprenticeship classification. Grant, I think, knows a little bit more about this than I do. But right now, youth apprenticeship is not a recognized pathway with the U.S. Department of Labor, just here in the state of Maryland. To add further confusion, Maryland, we have our own apprenticeships that are not run by the U.S. Department of Labor. Maryland has our own state. If you're all super confused about this and wondering how we can help, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you navigate all of the steps. It actually probably sounds a little more confusing than it actually really is. And depending on where you are in the ecosystem, do you already, as an employer, utilize apprenticeships? Do you not? Like, we can help you realize the path to creating your workforce through apprenticeships and starting in high school. All right, and so why are we here? Why are we talking about apprenticeships? Like I mentioned, we have this mandate by the state of Maryland. It's called Maryland's, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. There was funding, legislation a few years ago that basically is to help reform the education system in the state of Maryland, starting from pre-K all the way through college and career readiness. And that's the pillar that we're focused on here, college and career readiness, and helping Maryland reach the goal that is 45% of Maryland high schoolers to have completed a registered youth apprenticeship and or industry recognized credential by the time they graduate by 2030. Right now, we probably have a little bit about 1 to 1.5% of high schoolers in the state of Maryland that are in an apprenticeship program while they're still in high school. That's only 7 years, 6 years from now. I forgot it's 2024. 6 years from now, we want to get to 45%. That is a huge, monumental task for us. But like I mentioned, we here in the construction industry, I believe we actually have a competitive advantage over every other industry in the state of Maryland, in which we already have a robust apprenticeship ecosystem. We just need to embrace high schoolers. We all know that I think it's 80% of contractors say that they can't find and fill open positions. Right now, also the average age of an apprentice is 30 years old. So this is our way. This is how we get more kids in the industry. And we also right now are there's a cultural change happening in America right now. More than any other time in the last 40 years, the idea of a traditional 4-year degree has been a little bit diminished in America. A recent study said that only 62% of high schoolers actually want to go to college. So here it is. This is our time to shine. I know here at MCCI for 15 years, we've been working towards this. And now with both, the state of Maryland behind this change, as well as there's a cultural shift, this is the time for employers to embrace the idea of hiring kids before they're at the age of 18. Okay, so some of the benefits of the STA, the school to apprenticeship. Like I mentioned, we have students that are not necessarily waiting, don't want to wait to be 22 years old to join your workforce, or even 18. There's also a lot of synergy between what the education system is offering, as well as what the industry is needing. We have already career and technical education that's being taught in your high schools. So there are students that are already not quite as green as you may imagine. Additionally, with this, with the opportunity to utilize the STA clause as a registered apprenticeship, that curriculum, as you'll hear from IEC Chesapeake, can be taught where it's already currently being taught. So if you are providing related instruction at a union hall or at a JATC or at your local ABC or community college, that can still happen. Additionally, this collaboration this is the way that we can get to those goals a lot faster, and meet our workforce goals a lot faster. And then, like we said, there's a streamlined transition from education to the workforce. Your students are already working for you before they've even graduated, and you have that opportunity to wait or to get them and not wait until they've maybe made a choice into like a career in retail or hospitality or anything like that. You all may know the current stats. We have about 14% of the industry is women. The skilled trades, there's only about 4%. This is what, meanwhile, in CTE programs, we actually have much higher percentages of girls in the program than we do in the workforce. This is an opportunity for you to diversify through high school apprenticeships. Okay, and then honestly, this is our opportunity to inspire these kids. I'm telling you, once one of these students starts making, $20 an hour in their apprenticeship program, there's a really hard sell to get them to change careers. I know we'll hear from our employers that are on this call now. They're not going to leave. The stats are employers that utilize apprenticeship programs have a much higher retention rate than a typical employer does. I think the average turnover is about 25% voluntary turnover of any employer, but with apprenticeships, we have a 90% retention rate when somebody completes it. I mean, that's just, especially when you think about what the Zoomer generation, they leave every 2 years. And I know that there's employers like, well, if I'm going to invest in this training of this person, honestly, this is just the opportunity, and the stats are they're not going to leave you. You're not only are you creating loyalty amongst them, but you're creating a mentorship opportunity for the people that already work there, and your retention rates will go up with that as well. And with this, I honestly think this is where you utilize the standards that have already been created, and we're utilizing young people, and like I said, less employee turnover. And then finally, the really cool option, if your STA, if your apprenticeship is through a local community college and they are the ones providing the instruction, then there's the opportunity to use dual enrollment. And what does that mean for the employers? The curriculum is provided for free because there is separate funding utilized to fund dual enrollment as well.
All right, so now that Jen has explained a little more about why youth apprenticeships and school to apprenticeships work and all the benefits of them, let's talk about why we recommend specifically hiring high school students and address some of the common misconceptions that we have heard from employers. So why high school? Why are we talking about hiring high schoolers? As referenced, the current average age of an apprentice is 30, and you'll hear from Grant, spoiler alert, a little later, how IEC Chesapeake has lowered their average apprenticeship age. I believe it's under 25 years old. So they're already knocking those years off. High schoolers are already working demanding jobs, so we'll talk a little more in depth about some of those jobs, but they already have a full course load, after school activities, part-time work, and some of that part-time work is a lot more demanding than you would expect. We need to compete against other industries. Those include hospitality, retail, recreation, childcare. We'll get a little bit more into that later as well. But those industries hire high school students. They start under 18 and they sometimes stick with it, especially those students who are not interested in the traditional four-year college career path. And of course, we want to make your apprentice a journey worker faster. So if you start the apprenticeship sooner, then naturally you'll get that person as a journey worker a few years earlier than you would have if you did the traditional registered apprenticeship as opposed to an STA. And we want to influence those student career decisions before they graduate, as Jen referenced. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of high schoolers are already doing internships with major corporations. They're doing job shadowing in fields like healthcare, tech, all sorts of different fields that are doing internships. It's not quite the same as an apprenticeship and typically unpaid additional work. But hey, if students are willing to do that, then why not make that 20 an hour or whatever it might be as an apprentice? So one of the most common myths that we hear concerns from employers is that you're worried your insurance company won't let you hire anyone under 18. But good news, the Maryland Insurance Administration confirmed with us. We went to them to ask for confirmation from this, and they put out an official statement recently that your workers' compensation rates are not affected by the age of your employees, and claims are also not affected by the age of any of the individuals involved. So this was posted, again, clarifying this has always been how it is, but the clarification was posted in a memo on January 24th. And you can check MCCEI's LinkedIn page if you want more information and a direct link to read that memo from MIA themselves. Another huge misconception we hear is that construction is too dangerous for high schoolers. These students, they're minors, and being out in the field is not easy work, as we all know. But a lot of these high schoolers are already performing very demanding jobs. If you think about the requirements to be a lifeguard, childcare work, restaurant work even, a lot of students in Maryland are working as, they're mowing lawns, lawn maintenance, farmers in many areas. So they're already working sort of demanding high risk jobs. There's also, with an apprenticeship, there's a MOSH student learner agreement that you would sign along with the student. And of course, this is a supervised learning experience. There's dedicated safety training. So, safety is always first in anything in construction, and that is even more so when you have an apprentice. We also want to share that we were reading into more of the Department of Labor limitations for occupations for minors 16 to 18 years old. And participating in an apprenticeship, a youth apprenticeship, overrides all of those limitations. So all of the things that they say minors cannot do in a job space, if you're doing an apprenticeship, it actually completely overrides it. And as long as you are properly trained and supervised, you can participate in those activities. And of course, people are thinking, okay, well, my insurance rates might not go up and maybe it's not too dangerous, but when on earth are these students going to have time to work? They're in school full time. Again, students are already working. We found the average high schooler is working 17 hours a week on top of their coursework, sports, after school activities, anything like that. A lot of schools in Maryland, they value greatly these external learning opportunities that are just like apprenticeships or internships or whatever else it might be. So they'll work with employers to make accommodations, and that includes using AB schedules or block periods. So an AB schedule would be that maybe on A day, a student has all classes all day, and maybe on a B day, they only have classes for half the day or none at all, and that time can be used to attend their apprenticeship. And then there's those block periods or longer periods of time that could be dedicated to those learning opportunities. By senior year, most students don't even have a full day of classes at school. So a lot of them even start taking college classes. So why not just start an apprenticeship where you could be paid? And we also found that school attendance rates have been shown to increase with a youth apprenticeship. So starting that apprenticeship early actually helps the students excel in both their school studies as well as learning their trade and their future career. Well, I'm going to turn it right back over to Jen to talk a little more about some of the other myths that we hear.
So a huge concern, even amongst adults looking for careers in construction, is transportation. And while I can't say that transportation won't be an issue for your high school level apprenticeships, it doesn't have to be. There are workarounds. First of all, you can get a license at the age of 16 here in the state of Maryland. So that shouldn't be, if the student has a license and transportation, they should be able to get to you. Additionally, we do know that some of our school districts, especially rural ones, are really working to help develop transportation solutions. I believe when I was talking to some of the work-based solution coordinators with some of the other school districts, I think like Baltimore County, sometimes they have things like Uber and Lyft gift certificates to help students get to their programs. Also, as an employer, you have the option to help provide transportation solutions. Yes, there will be permission forms. It all depends on your school district on whether or not they allow that, as well as the parents, as are they comfortable. But we know employers have done things like carpooling. Even employers, I know landscaping companies that will do that for their adult employees is picking up people at a central location and using a van pool, and that is an option as well. When you've got a problem, you know, think outside the box to fix it. And then honestly, there's always the option that you can place your apprentice in a more like permanent solution rather than a transient place like going from job to job. If you have a prefab shop, start your students there so that it's an easier transportation solution. They have one place that they're getting dropped off and picked up, maybe by a parent or a friend or whatnot. And then if you maybe are on a project that is 2 years in length as opposed to 2 months, that might be a little bit easier too when figuring out those transportation solutions for your students. And as we already talked earlier, I know we love to demonize Gen Z and say these kids don't want to work hard, but it's actually not true. As we said earlier, over 30% of high school students already have jobs during the school year. Additionally, that stat goes even higher when you talk about summer employment. And you can absolutely use summer employment for youth apprenticeship. And like we said, studies suggest that students actually would work if they have something to show for it. So either they are getting college credits through that dual enrollment with the community college that's providing their apprenticeships, or they actually have a job guarantee after they graduate. You can, dangle that in front of the student either with an STA or a youth apprenticeship option as well. And studies show that Gen Z cares more. Obviously, they want to get paid, but they really care about the meaning in their work. And we know that the construction industry, there's really no other industry that you can impact the world better than here. I'm in the construction industry, and I frankly don't think that we do enough of a great job talking about the meaningful work. Babies wouldn't be born in hospitals. We wouldn't be on this Zoom call right now. And students wouldn't be learning in schools if it wasn't for the construction industry and the world in which we're creating. And then, our thing is, all right, you've already got an apprenticeship registered with the state of Maryland. And no offense to any of our MATC council members on this call, going in front of MATC can be a pain. But the good news is if you've already been registered with the state of Maryland, to add that STA clause, you no longer have to go back in front of MATC. There's actually a clause that we're going to show you really that shows how easy it is to add that school to apprenticeship option to your existing registered apprenticeship. In fact, here's this clause right here. You basically have to change in your apprenticeship that you no longer have to have be 18 years old or with a most of them say you have to have a high school diploma and or a GED and be over 18. Change that to today, 16 or older with signed permission of parent. And then these are the steps here. Like I said earlier, the related instruction can be provided by you as the sponsor of the apprenticeship or by the school system itself. All right, that's enough of me and Cosette talking. We are going to turn this over now to Lauren and Thomas of Seaside Plumbing and Grant Schmelzer of IEC Chesapeake. And I've got some questions for them. Okay, so our first question is, what benefits have you observed in implementing the school to apprenticeship program in the construction industry? Grant, this one's for you. Are there any specific advantages you can highlight as the sponsor?
For us, it's number one, as Jen kind of mentioned, I think Jen did mention it. We've seen our average age drop from late 20s, early 30s, and I'm not talking, a dozen or 2 dozen apprentices. Currently, our organization has over 1,000 apprentices, and we've been able to see that average age drop to under the age of 25. And that's not just with the school to apprenticeship program. It is as a result of us being in the school systems, because what we are starting to see is not only the students that do the school to apprenticeship program with us, their friends wind up coming to us a little bit earlier because they took a semester at a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution. They realize, you know what, that's not for me. I'm not there yet in my life. So we get a lot of individuals that graduate high school, go that route, and they are getting to us a lot quicker. So that's really been a very positive result of our work. The other big result of our work has been the ability for us to become more diverse, specifically with bringing more women into the industry. Jen mentioned, that 4% construction industry is females. So we are definitely getting in front of more females to promote the opportunities that exist in the electrical and low voltage community.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. So, Thomas and Lauren, this is for you. Can you elaborate on any motivations that your high school students have shown with you towards why they're participating in your apprenticeship program and how it's impacted them?
So 2 of our apprentices that did come over from a trade school, they want to move up the ladder really quick. They eat up information like a sponge. They adapt very well. They talk about their successes and key takeaways from what they learn in class and applying it out in the field with the technicians they ride with. Overall, they're just super stoked to be a part of something bigger than themselves and being able to go out into people's homes and help them.
Awesome.
Hey, Jen, can I just add something real quick?
Absolutely.
So one of the challenges that we face, because we were we were ahead of the curve on this. So one of the things that we had to do is allay any fears of the local school systems, that our goal wasn't to take over the existing electrical programs and the CTEs. Our goal was to capture the students that didn't know about the programs and the CTEs and couldn't get into the programs within the CTEs. Our belief is the CTEs, the vocational schools, need to continue doing what they're doing. But this program is really geared towards those individuals that couldn't get into it, because what we know is that the vocational programs across the state are getting very close to capacity.
Yep.
And the school systems don't have, number one, the technical experts to do the training. They're all struggling for that, just like we're struggling for journey workers, and they don't have the lab capacity. So it's very important for those that are on the call today to understand we want the school systems to keep on doing what they're doing with CTEs, and let us go after the students who aren't necessarily enrolled in the CTE programs, because we also want those individuals that are in the CTE programs.
Absolutely. I mean, the stats are, even if every single student that's currently enrolled in a CTE construction program joined the construction industry, we still would not meet our goals of necessary. And to be honest, not all those students are actually going to join the construction industry. Some students are in a CTE pathway because it was that or something else. It might not have been, or they're just realizing while they're in that CTE pathway that it isn't for them. But there, like Grant said, there are so many students that do not have access to either the CT, the skilled trade that they're really interested in because their local school district doesn't offer it. They don't have transportation to get to the one that does, or it's full. So absolutely, as employers, I know it's probably you want to hire the kid that might already have a little bit of experience, but you need to be looking at the kids that don't as well. Because just because they haven't already taken a class or two in high school doesn't mean that they're not equally as qualified or motivated for that.
And Jen, just to tack on, Valerie had made a comment in there, so that's why I kind of transitioned. If you guys are following the chat, that's really why I wanted to point that out and demonstrate that to everybody, is we're really working. And just so everybody knows, IEC is working with Montgomery County, Howard County, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, and we're getting ready to work with Frederick County, and we are in conversations with some of the counties on the lower shore as well.
I also
just to kind of add to what Grant said, like we're not in competition with anybody, but we on the Eastern Shore, plumbing is the redheaded stepchild and it is not represented in any of our local high schools at all. So we're able to fill a need there. And, you know, the ultimate goal is more people in the skilled trades to reduce this shortage. So we all really have to work together.
I love that. I also love what Val said in the chat about students, you know, in order to select a CTE pathway, in a lot of school districts, you need to choose it in 8th grade or 9th grade. I don't know about any of you, but raise the hands of who's actually doing what they thought they were going to do when they were in the 8th grade, right? I mean, the idea of expecting a 13-year-old to choose their career for the rest of their lives. This is an opportunity to give kids, and I am not even doing what I thought I was going to do when I went to college. So, I mean, like this is how we help kids make those decisions. How would we accommodate a homeschooled student? So I will, I don't, yeah, go ahead.
We've actually had definitely one, but maybe two. So they came to us directly. Unfortunately, I don't know if that anomaly was solved in terms of the local school district getting credit for it, but we did help that student, so it can be done.
Right. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about hiring 16 and 17-year-olds. It's funny, I talk to contractors all the time about their workforce problems. That's literally what we do at MCCI. And I'm telling about them this program. They're like, that's really great, you know, but we can't hire under 18. And yes, we've already said, you know, insurance, like they love to say that insurance is the reason. And we've since found out that that was a old wives' tale, that insurance is affected by the age of the people that work for you. But it could just be the fear of hiring somebody under the age of 18. I don't personally think that you suddenly become wiser the moment you turn 18. But for those, Lauren, as an employer of people under 18, like how did you get over that reservation of hiring somebody?
I mean, obviously, like we looked into a lot of the same things. I will say our auto insurance company is not too keen on drivers under the age of 25, but we haven't seen any increases from it. We just kind of, get scrutinized a little bit there. But we can't legally hire anybody under the age of 16.
Right.
However, like we really treat them, in my opinion, like anybody else. I mean, if they're a decent human being, if they have values, if they have good character, doesn't matter their age, doesn't matter what they look like, doesn't matter if they're male or female, we'll train them. We always hire for character and train for skill. So, I mean, there's obviously some roadblocks with younger people and, but like you said, there are a lot of myths and, I have, 18, 19-year-olds that are more mature than some 40-year-olds that we have. And it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, just legally making sure that like we knew what we were up against and that, our T's were crossed and our I's were dotted. Aside from that, it's just making sure that we have decent human beings, and any high schooler that comes through, they do go through the normal process of interviewing. So, we do our interviews, our reference checks, and we also do what's called a ride to decide day. So we will have that apprentice or whoever's interested in a career in plumbing ride with the technician for a full day from start to finish so they can see what it's like a day in the life. And also we get some feedback from the technician. Okay, was he just kind of standing there with his hands in his pockets, not really engaged? Or is this really somebody that wants to have this as a career? So
I love that. Ride to decide. Very clever. It seems like our apprenticeship providers have really great marketers, because I know Grant over there, they call it hire, HIRE education. So pretty cool. Very clever. I love that. So with that, can you guys give any advice to any of the employers that might be here who are considering these programs? What are the challenges and how to maximize the benefits? This is for Grant, Lauren, anybody?
Sure. All I can say is just do it. And try to make your voice heard as much as possible to the state of Maryland, to your apprenticeship contacts, to your local legislators, because I will say things have improved drastically with this whole blueprint initiative, but I'm a really big advocate for making this process simpler for employers, because when we first had our apprenticeship program registered with the state of Maryland, I don't even want to tell you what a pain it was. So things are much more streamlined now, which I'm very happy to hear, but we're always kind of working and trying to get feedback of, hey, you guys have this blueprint initiative, you need more employers involved, we need more people in the trades. Please don't make it so hard. It doesn't have to be a 6-month process of us going in front of the apprenticeship commission to plead our case or whatever it may be. So that to me is just make sure you're speaking up and kind of having your voice heard. And aside from that, just do it. It's really not like as scary as it might seem, like once you get into it. And we have had some amazing young people. We have them right now that have just blown some of the older apprentices and individuals out of the water by a mile. So
Awesome. Grant?
Yeah, so I'm going to push back a little. So I do sit on the State Apprenticeship Council in Maryland, have under 4 governors, and I chair the Youth Apprenticeship Advisory Council currently for Governor Moore and did under Governor Hogan. And I also sit on the Virginia Apprenticeship Council. We are actually getting ready to launch, you'll hear something maybe in under 6 weeks, our first school to apprenticeship program in Virginia. So we're really excited about that. The challenge is we have the interest of the State Apprenticeship Council, I'm not speaking on behalf of them, is to protect the well-being of the apprentices. So when you're talking about high hazard occupations like construction, we have to be very diligent in making sure that it's a safe environment, and the mentorship, which is the journey worker working with the apprentice, is up to speed. To be very candid with everybody, I had some new employers that came on last summer, and they had never done an apprenticeship, and they wanted to participate in the school to apprenticeship program. And I told them no. I said, let's work with the adults first, get a system in place before we move to our young people. Every single year since we've been running the school to apprenticeship program, which we are in our 5th year now. So we graduated our first cohort last year. We graduated 10, completing the 4-year apprenticeship program. We learn something new every single year. There's a new curveball, there's a new wrinkle, whatever you want to call it. Currently, we have 29 students from the 5 counties, and we're learning. We're flying the plane and building it too, is the best analogy I can give to everybody. So you're going to have new wrinkles. And as this continues to grow, you're going to learn from the experience. So just keep in mind that there's a support system that is being implemented now. I will say it wasn't there several years ago. Our doors are always open. We handle things slightly differently at IEC. We do a lot of the legwork. We have over 200 participating electrical contracting companies in our apprenticeship program. We actually do all the information sessions. We meet with the parents. We kind of bring them in the door, make sure they're on track to graduate, because that's the most important thing. We make sure that they have their driver's licenses. We make sure they get OSHA 10, because we want everybody to be safe out on the job site. And then what we do is we do kind of speed dating for the employment portion of it. And that changed over the years because we are getting more and more candidates involved. So at the end of the day, I'll say there are a couple of important factors for the employers. Number one, making sure you have the right mentor or the right journey worker. That's huge. Putting them with the, I'll say, most seasoned individual within your company. It's probably going to be hard for that individual, that journey worker, to relate to a 17, 18, 19-year-old individual. So making sure you have the right mentor. Second thing is you need to, if you go down this route, to treat that individual just like a full-time employee. Hold them to that same attendance, hold them to that same expectation level that you do for your full-time employees. I'm gonna again put my state apprenticeship hat on here for a second. Make sure there's a full-time employment opportunity on the back end of this. That's the Barbie dream house, so to speak, that I would like to see, is that every single one of these, I'll say, graduates can move into that full-time employment within your company. Communicate with the school system and your related instruction provider. You're going to have problems. I'm telling you that right now. As you bring on more and more apprentices, you're going to have problems. How do you handle snow days? Didn't even think about that, right? Where construction we work. How do you handle professional development days when school isn't happening? Do they work a full day? How do you handle spring break? How do you handle weekends? All those fun things that you learn throughout it. I think, part of what Jen and the team are doing is kind of starting to develop best practices, cheat sheet, whatever we want to call it. And those are different things. We had a student that got into an accident, lost his vehicle. The other challenge is, being as construction's a portable industry, you may be utilizing Howard County, but your job site is down in Charles County. It's not realistic for an individual to drive from Howard County down to Charles County for a half day's worth of work. So our students, generally, we'd love starting them in between their junior and senior year that summer so they can work full time, get that exposure. And then once the school year kicks in, they work from start time, which we're dealing with construction, so it could be as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, till lunchtime. And then they return to school for their graduation requirements in most cases. Some students say, you know what? I'm going to take my math and reading online, or I'm going to take it at the community college. They never step foot back in their high school for their senior year. Part of what we wanted to do was to be able to leverage and allow the students to have the high school experience still, so they can participate in sports, band, drama club, whatever it is. The last day, so that's 4 days a week, every Friday they report to our offices to take their year one of their apprenticeship program. So they then graduate high school as a year two apprentice with their accrued on the job training hours. And that's anywhere from 450. We've had some students work all, Christmas break, all spring break, and they've gotten upwards of 1,100 hours. So that's kind of the way that we handle it.
That's awesome. I know, Grant, you specifically, like just mentioned, have a training program just for the cohorts of student going through. Like, it's completely separate.
In some
then-
cases, yes, we
Right.
believe in the cohort model, but we've had some students that have come to us later in the game, and as we look down on the shore, they may participate in our adult related
Okay.
instruction experience. So we're somewhat flexible because that's what's being dictated to us in terms of the interest of our young people. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible.
Lauren and Thomas, who provides the related instruction for you guys?
You want to take that over there, Lauren?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So sorry, I wasn't sure. Yeah. So, we, Tom runs classes here in the office and in our lab. And then each apprentice is paired up with a mentor as well that they ride along with. And things are a little bit different for us, obviously, because we are a small business with limited resources. And here on the Eastern Shore, that is obviously a challenge. Like, we don't have huge organizations and resources to do the things on like a larger level that we would like to be able to do. So, Tom runs classes here in the office, and then pairing people up with a mentor as well has been really, really crucial.
That's great. We have two completely different models that are both successfully training young people in construction careers. And I think that's what what we are working on right now. We have been talking to all the different unions across the state of Maryland, as well as the different ABC chapters that already provide apprenticeships, and community colleges say, how can we leverage programs that already exist and utilize those to train high schoolers? And then, yes, we would love to see if a current model doesn't exist for an employer like on the Eastern Shore in our more rural areas that maybe don't have related instruction nearby, then we can absolutely help you do exactly what Seaside Plumbing has done, and creating that youth apprenticeship model specifically to train just your employees. That's the awesome part about apprenticeship, is that you're training your staff the way you want them to be trained, and training them. The best part about a high schooler is they don't have any bad habits yet that need to be broken. Whereas you hire somebody who's got 3 to 5 years experience, they've been working for somebody else, doing it their way. You're training them how you want them to be trained. Okay, so I know we've talked a little bit about how you've done with the younger people, training your younger people. Are there any unique considerations compared to like more traditional apprenticeship models, like Grant, that you would see beyond what we've already discussed for the young people?
So, the biggest thing there are two things that I see coming at us head on. Number one is both the school systems, the LEAs, and the workforce arms within the counties or within the regions have hired all these, they call them different things depending upon what part of the state you're in or what county you're in. They call them career and college readiness coordinators. Some of them call them, there's so many acronyms, I'm not going to bore you, but We now have boots on the ground in the school systems. It's awesome. Challenge is the employers aren't there yet. So that is something that we need to, and I'm trying to make that an issue, because we're ramping this up, but we don't have the employers on that. So I just want to demonstrate to you, don't think that there's not an opportunity, whether your spouse, family member, there are opportunities. So there are youth apprentices with NSA, with Johns Hopkins, they're all over the place. So we would love some help. All of us would, in trying to continue to grow this, because that's definitely coming to a head rather quickly. The other big thing, especially for construction, is the driver's license issue. So Paula, who's on my team, she's my workforce development manager. You guys got stuck with me today. You know, basically by October-ish of their junior year, the students need to be getting their learner's permit in order to have their license, in order to participate if your organization requires a driver's license. And again, I'm in construction, so we're very heavily focused on that part of it. We do have some prefabrication opportunities, but they're not as plentiful as regular job sites. If you're in the service industry, in terms of running service calls, I think Seaside Plumbing does a lot of service. It's interesting for them because they can almost flip the model a little bit, because they may have a little bit later work hours versus new construction that starts at the crack of dawn, right? And even before then. So we are actually in the process, and it should be before the State Apprenticeship Council in March. We're going to be announcing another apprenticeship program that we're going to offer, which is primarily going to deal with school to apprenticeship or youth apprenticeship as a ancillary part of our industry. So it came to us because there are so many different pathways in our industry that there was a need, and we think it's going to help alleviate some of the challenges for young people who don't have that driver's license or transportation. That's the biggest thing in terms of it. So I would encourage the employers, make that very, very clear to your school systems, what you're looking for, when you're looking for it, and give that timeline.
Absolutely. I can't stress enough that this is not going to be a success without employers at the table. I said that we will not have a problem getting kids and their parents to buy in to this option. It is without a place for them to work. Yes, that's why we're having this. And like Grant alluded to, beyond just the skilled trades, we can be using apprenticeships to fill other construction industry positions. We are currently working right now on creating a construction management apprenticeship. Our community college actually already offers an apprenticeship, but it doesn't have an STA option. We're working on fixing that. There's no real reason why someone needs a four-year degree to be a construction manager. And I personally have a four-year degree, not in construction, and was a construction manager for the majority of my career. Only ran projects for about 6 to 8 years, but still, I've successfully ran projects without a degree in construction management or civil engineering. And in fact, there are people here in the state of Maryland who run companies, construction management firms, that do not have a degree at all, or don't have a degree in construction management. You talk to contractors all the time and they say, and I ask them what they want in a high school program, and they say, well, just give me somebody passionate and with a good work ethic, and I can teach them the rest. That's an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is teaching them the rest. And this is the time here in Maryland. There's a great deal of funding available, which we haven't even touched on. There are tax credits that can be utilized for both youth and registered apprenticeships that can help subsidize a curriculum as well.
So I did want to just add one thing there, because this is a roadblock we have, and here on the shore, it's very difficult for employers to kind of get on board with this, or it has been. And the reason being is the average net profit margin for a company in the trades is 2 to 5% net, which McDonald's by comparison is in the mid-20s typically. So, you know, a lot of small companies in our area, they have limited time, limited funds, and limited resources. And I know there's some tax credits out there. And you know, we're huge advocates for trying to get more employers involved. Unfortunately, we aren't eligible for some of these tax credits because there's a provision where you have to pay them a certain percentage of the prevailing wage rate. And here on the shore, you would have to pay an incoming plumber over $20 an hour out of high school, and it's just not possible in most of our counties here on the shore. So I know that's been a big roadblock for employers, for us, that we've been really trying to like get out there and advocate for, so that way we can open back up those tax credits to local employers here and hopefully get more people involved so we can get more students working in businesses.
Thanks for that feedback. That is something we do here at MAC, have the ear of legislators, and please share anything with us, and we can talk about ways to make it, if there are hurdles keeping you from, that could potentially keep employers from utilizing it. I know we've had a lot of questions.
Jen, just one
You're good.
quick thing. So that's one example. I want to give you another example, folks, because while I agree with that, the state has really made it easy over the last couple of years to access funds. So there's a program called Maryland Business Works that's available, and they will reimburse employers up to 50% of the cost of education. And then, like, if Lauren, because you're down there, Lower Shore Workforce Board, they also have
Yep.
some more individual.
Yep. I
Like,
talk to
so-
Bob all the time.
Yep.
Without them, we couldn't do what we're doing. I'm so grateful for him.
Exactly. So you got to lift up some rocks sometimes in order to find the money, but there are opportunities. The prevailing wage does become a little sticky, I'll call it. So just know that there are, I'll say, less cumbersome options that are available out there.
Great. And that's what the Maryland Apprenticeship Connector is here to help you with. We know that businesses oftentimes are not bound by by imaginary borders between counties, especially here in Central Maryland, where you've got so many counties touching each other. There are 24 different education agencies across the state, and 24 counties and 24 ways of doing things. We absolutely do not want you to have to hunt down the information and the parties yourself. If you go to it's macworkforce.org, which will be on, we can help you navigate this, what may seem like a daunting system. I know we've got about 2 minutes left. Do we have any questions or any final words from our panel?
I'll say something. It is well worth the energy put into have an apprenticeship program. More than 50% of our field staff were graduates of our apprenticeship program, and we have a way higher retention rate with those individuals. They eat up information like a sponge, and they apply themselves really well. So that would be like my last thing to say, is well worth the energy and efforts to start it if you haven't started it already.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Thomas. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. Like I said, if you missed our call, missed the beginning, this will be on our YouTube, and we will absolutely email that link out so you can share it with all your colleagues. Thank you all to our education partners that provided some information as well. If you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Cosette. We're really excited to help the construction industry take advantage of our competitive advantage that we have over the other industries. We will be competing against every other industry for these students, and now it's our time to shine here in Maryland in construction. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Have a great day.